13, verse 28 to 40. After Jesus said this, he went on in front of them towards Jerusalem. As he came near Bethphage and Bethany, at the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 disciples ahead, 30 with these instructions. Go to the village there ahead of you. As you go in, you will find a colt tied up that has never been ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If someone asks you why you are untying it, tell him that the master needs it. They went on their way and found everything just as Jesus had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owner said to them, "Why are you untying it?" "The master needs it," they answered. And they took the colt to Jesus. Then they threw their cloaks over the animal and helped Jesus get on. As he rode on, people spread their cloaks on the road. When he came near Jerusalem, at the place where the roads went down the Mount of Olives, the large crowd of his disciples began to thank God and praise him in loud voices for all the great things that they had seen. "God bless the King who comes in the name of Lord. Peace in heaven and glory to God." Then some of the Pharisees in the crowd spoke to Jesus. "Teacher," they said, "command your disciples to be quiet." Jesus answered, "I tell you that if they keep quiet, the stones themselves will start shouting. Your word, O Lord, is lamp to our feet."
Testing one. Okay, I'm on. Is that? Can you hear me clearly enough? Great. Wow. I just want to start by saying thanks. Thanks so much. Let's give them a big round of applause for what's going on, what we've participated in so far. Let me just say, it's a real privilege. I want to say to you guys, it's a real privilege. You can probably might want to sit down just for a minute. Come and sit over there. There you go. It's a real privilege to not just watch our young people growing up, but to have them, and not just to have them participating and in worship, but to be leading us as they are today, is such a privilege. And I hope you understand how privileged we are. There are so many churches who don't get to enjoy this kind of privilege about being led by young people. Thank you so much for sharing with us in the way that you have. I'm wondering, and let me just say too, thanks to Kim, who's done all the organising to make this happen. Thank you, Kim, as she does for all our Intergen services. It takes a toll. Thank you, Kim. So I want to ask you, of those of you who are participating in the story today, what's your favourite part, or what's the part that stands out the most for you in the Easter story? You've been practising it for today. When you've been practising your lines, or when you've been reading other people's lines, what's the thing that stands out the most for you? If you want to respond, put your hand up for me, so I can give you the microphone. Yeah, Amanda.
I think my favourite part's probably when Jesus rides into Jerusalem with a donkey. Yeah. What's that? I think it's just very sweet, like all of the people celebrating him with the palms and everything, you know.
Okay, thank you. I've got another response, yes?
My favourite part is when Jesus rose from the dead.
Thank you, Juna. Thank you, yeah. Well, anybody else want to share? That's okay. I mean, the Easter story, which you're performing for us today, covers quite a range of events over the course of about 8 days. Our reading for today picks up on the part that Amanda pointed out, which is Jesus riding into Jerusalem on a donkey. We know it now as Palm Sunday. Jesus came in on a colt or a donkey, and there were lots of people who lined the streets with palms as a way of saying, here's our king. Here's our king. Now, they had a kind of a king, a different kind of king, who had a lot more power. And Palm Sunday is all about this different kind of king. Palm Sunday is all about the hopes of those who gathered on that day, those who came and became the crowd. They had this hope that things could be different than how they were. That's why they gathered. They came because they wanted things to be different than how they were. That's why they gathered. And you might remember in the story, it talks about them having palms and throwing their cloaks down on the ground. And that's their way of saying, we're committed to it. Right? So they gathered to say, we hope there's a different way. And they put the palms and the cloaks out because they wanted to say, and we're committed to that different kind of way. And the Easter story reminds us that we too can be committed to a different way of being than the way that our world is. There's a lot of things in our world that are broken for a lot of people. And the Easter story invites us to also bring our palms and to lay down our cloaks and to say we're gathered because we hope things can be different and we're committed to things being different. Now, what do we think things need to be different from? What are some things that you see going on that you think, gee, I wish the world was different than that? It's a question, yes, Maylee.
I think, well, like fighting and all that.
Right, the fighting and the violence and the war. Yes, the world should be different than that, shouldn't it? Does anybody else want to share something that they think the world needs to change from? The way things are. Amanda's thinking about it. Are you all right? Anybody else? What are some things that you see in our world that make you a bit worried or a little bit concerned, or you think that should be different? Yes, Isabel.
The fires.
Right, okay. So lots of fires, there's lots of floods. Some people might, well, I'm one of them, would point things back to climate, to our environment and the climate, and we're not caring for the earth enough. Yeah. Juna.
When there's droughts.
Yeah, the droughts and the fires, that's right. Yes, exactly. Well, I've got a list of things that I just thought that I would want you to have a bit of a think about, that maybe the world could be different from this. All right, there's a whole bunch of people who think only of themselves, about what's best for them. I don't think that's a great thing. There's a lot of people who want to own lots of stuff while other people go hungry or other people go without. There's a whole bunch of people who want lots of stuff. Yeah? There's a lot of people who want to be popular and want everyone to like them, and want to be famous, and want to be seen for just being attractive or clever at something. There are a lot of people who unfortunately think really poorly about themselves. They think they have really no real, like there's a lot of people who unfortunately feel really badly about themselves. I wish the world was different than that. There are a lot of people who are not a lot of people, there are a few people who are really, really rich, and there's a lot of us who are kind of pretty well off, while there are others who are poor. And I think the world could or should be different than that. There are people who are mean. There are people who like to judge other people. There are people who pick on other people and keep them separated. There are a lot of people who get too angry too quickly. There are people who are unforgiving. There are people who do get violent too quickly as well. And you've picked that up. There's people who like to turn to hate really quickly. Now, Palm Sunday reminds us that the world can be different than that. You see, when we read about Jesus coming in on a donkey or on a colt, with palms and cloaks. Other leaders of his time would have come into town on a stallion, on a big, tall horse, and they would have had an armour on, and they would have had an army around them. And they would have had spears and weapons. And Jesus is making a statement when he comes into town on a colt, on a young horse, with no weapons, no army. Jesus is saying to the world, there is another way, and I'm showing you what it is. And it's a way that is hard. It's hard to kind of think, what's the way of Jesus in the middle of all of this? It often gets forgotten, and often we say to ourselves later, oh yeah, I should have done that, than sometimes in the choices we make. So what I want to do now is go back through my list of things that I think could be different, and if you've got more in your mind, then you can think about those too. But what's the opposite of the things that we listed? What's the opposite of being greedy and wanting more?
People wanting less and helping others.
Right, so people having less and sharing with others, yeah, sharing. So that's right, being generous rather than greedy. That's the way the world could be. That's the way we could be. What about thinking of ourselves first? Only about thinking about what we want or what we need. What's the opposite of that? Maybe just grab the microphone from Haven, Isabel, and then you can answer. There you go. Just try it. Okay, now.
Like, instead of that, you could just think, like...
Think of others.
Yeah, think of others. Don't think about us first. Think of others and how, like, they feel. Like, have some empathy and just help them out.
Great response. That's right. When you're in the middle of something, only concentrating on what's going on for you is missing some of the point. And that is sometimes we need to think about what might be going on for another person. Rather than putting money first or having, well, we talked about that, about sharing. What about what about thinking lowly of ourselves? How might the world be like, rather than us kind of ending up in a place where we feel lonely and we feel bad about ourselves? Anybody? It's a hard one. Pardon, sorry? We can look for good things, Kim said. That's right. And we can look for places where and maybe it needs us who aren't feeling that way to connect, to be open to being connected and gathering people in and including rather than separating them out. What's the opposite of being mean and picking on people? Junior was first.
Being nice.
Being nice, yeah, that's right. The word in the Bible for that is being kind, kindness. So choosing kindness. What about rather than judging people? What's the opposite of that?
Don't judge other people.
Right, so what's not judging? What's another way of being not judging? Yes, Mail? Oh, we'll go, Haven, yep.
Like giving someone a compliment.
That's it, yeah, being kind, like giving people compliments, seeing the good in them, rather than what's different and that which you don't like. So actually actively seeking to compliment other people. What's the opposite of getting angry really quickly? Amanda, do you want to give the microphone? Thank you.
Like patience.
Patience, yeah, being patient, that's right. Showing some patience, stopping and thinking about things. What's the opposite of violence and war?
Like helping others, not being violent to others.
Not being violent, yeah.
And we should all just get along.
We should get along, which requires us to be people of what? Actually, I think you led us in it this morning. The passing of the...
Peace.
The peace, that's right. We should be peaceful people who seek to live with peace and for peace. That's right. What's the opposite of hatred? Because there's a lot of hatred in our world. A lot of people start from a point of hatred. So what's the opposite of hatred? Love. Everyone was quick on that one. That's right. Exactly. Love. So there is a different way. And Jesus shows us that way. And it's a way that puts God first. And it's a way that when we choose to live it out, makes life work. It makes life feel better. It grows life. That's what we read about this morning, that Jesus comes into town on a colt to show us that love is the way. That's the way of his kingdom, the way of love. And that's what the Easter story in many ways, or mostly fully, is all about. That love is the way of God. And that each Easter we're invited into this same story. So as you continue to play out the Easter story for us, I want to say to you, I want to say to all of us, friends, as Easter comes, have a happy Easter, have a peaceful Easter, have an Easter filled with love. And may you know the love of God, the love of yourself, the love of others, the love of our world, and the love of God in the middle of all that. Thank you. I'm going to pass back now